Shalom from northern Israel. And once again, we talked a little bit about current affairs in the realm of politics, and specifically international affairs, and more specifically the Russia-Ukraine war that continues to rage on, despite this being the 5th or 6th day. Yeah, 20, 21st, 23rd, 24th, 25th, 6th, right? It's 6th day of President Trump's second term in office. And despite him claiming he could end the war on his first day in office, after it was clear and he admitted he could not end it before his term in office. Not only was it an obvious fail when he failed to end the war on his first day in office, but the reason why has also become clear, and he has admitted failing for the obvious reasons that we all knew, and he has admitted lying, basically, in order to win the election, and he managed to dupe so many people that voted for him, thinking that he would, in fact, end wars, starting with the Russia-Ukraine war on day one of his term, which he failed to do again. And he lied when he said he could do it. If you remember, he said he would call Putin and he would call Zelensky and have some kind of, I don't know, Zoom call or conference call or whatever they do, and that they could talk it out. And that basically Trump would say, you got to end this. Like talking like some kind of a tough real estate broker from the 1980s is going to somehow hold water with the aggressive leader / dictator of Russia, who is invading Ukraine for no good reason. Right? But yeah, we knew he was lying. The dupes who believed him, you were wrong. It is evident. It's even more evident by the fact that Trump has admitted calling President Xi of China to ask him to help intervene and stop the war, which makes you think, how deluded is this Trump fellow? Of course, the answer is completely. Because why would Xi of China intervene and stop the war when he's making a fortune on contributing arms to Russia, right? Supplying arms with Russia for money, and supplying God knows what else to them for money, right? Political cover, purchase of resources, whatever it might be. China is making a massive profit from this. And specifically, the government of China is making a massive profit from this. And specifically, President Xi of China is most likely making a very tidy profit from all of this. So what makes you think that calling President Xi of China would in any way help stop this war? When you know, your advisors know that it won't. And they probably told you, dear President Trump, that you probably didn't listen to them and thought, as always, that you know better, when it turns out, pretty much as always, that you don't. Now, does that mean that you're incapable of winning elections? Well, you've certainly won elections. Gotta hand you that. And the way you've done it is the oldest trick in the book. You suckered the dupes. Right? I'm not saying everyone that voted for you was a dupe. In fact, I know very smart people who voted for you. Very, very smart people who are even politically aware, who voted for you precisely because this is how you do things. There are people that like that you lie and get away with it. There are people, because it's all about the power to them, right? There are people that love that you won the election and that the Republicans won the House and Senate and that you fully control the Supreme Court. There are people that love that. They don't want a balance in government. and they want an authoritarian dictator wannabe to be the president. They don't want human rights. They don't want civil rights, as long as they can stay in the privileged class. And the ones who are foolish enough to believe that they, in a non-protected class, or in a class that should be protected but isn't, right? The people in the minorities who still voted for you, who voted against their own interests, they're going to find out real soon just what it is that dear President Trump bore for them. Now, do I think he's an outright racist or Nazi or something like that? No, I don't. Has he displayed racist tendencies in his many years alive on this planet? Yes, President Trump has displayed racist tendencies. He's done certain things long before he was president, like not allow black people to buy apartments in his buildings. That's well documented on the record. He lost those court cases long before he was a politician. So don't come at me with, those are political jungle courts. No, he was a Democrat then. And he lost those civil cases in which he was, or his company was responsible and found liable for denying people the right to buy apartments because of effectively the color of their skin. Like two perfectly equal candidates, one white, one black. The black one went to him first. He denied them. The white one went to him after. He approved them. Same exact qualifications, same credit score, same everything. Only difference was the color of their skin. Yep, he favored the white people. Now, you can say whatever you like, but again, if you tell me that that was a kangaroo court that found him liable in those cases too, and they found his company liable in those cases too, I will tell you again, he was not a politician at the time. At least he wasn't running for any office. He wasn't a candidate for election. He was just a real estate guy in New York. The same old kind of schmuck he's always been his whole life, just like every other real estate schmuck in New York. All right? No disrespect, just saying. That's who he was. So, for people whining about that, kangaroo court, you're wrong. And if you think I'm wrong, bring the evidence to your claim. Because he was not a politician. He was just another real estate schmuck committing grossly corrupt practices in the state of New York. So, President Trump, once again, lied about being able to end the war in Russia and Ukraine, or in Ukraine with Russia. He knowingly lied about it because he said he could do it. He was challenged on the fact that he said he could do it before he got into office, and then had to relent when he was told, hey, if you can end the war now before you're president, it is grossly irresponsible of you not to. Why don't you do it? And then he said, well, I guess I'd have to be president to find out. And then it ended on day one. Well, day one came, day one went. He didn't end the war. And he didn't end it on day 2 or day 3 or day 4 or day 5. And now we're on day 6. And it's been reported that he said he called President Xi of China to help end the war, to which President Xi of China must have had quite a big belly laugh, thinking, my God, I can't believe America voted for this idiot to be back in office, and chuckling the whole way through the phone call and laughing hard after the phone call, if not during the phone call. Because why the hell would President Xi of China ever help to end a war from which he is profiting massively, and for which his country is profiting massively by helping Russia to continue this aggressive invasion of Ukraine? There's just simply no logic to the man, but that's how he operates. And again, I don't hate the guy. Just so we're clear, I do not hate Trump. Okay? Do I hate people in general? No, I don't. Maybe, yes, you could say I hate really, truly evil villains, right? Like, certainly there are some in the world. I don't dwell on it, but would I have hate in my heart when thinking about Hitler? Yeah, I could say I hate Hitler, right? That I have some hatred for a person like Hitler, but I would have some hatred in my heart for a person like Osama bin Laden or President Assad, like really evil, villainous people who intentionally target innocent civilians and just innocent people in general, and just commit heinous acts. Yes, those are people I could say I hate, but I wouldn't dwell on it. I got no room in my heart for that hatred. Right? The best thing I do is to compartmentalize it and not dwell on that hatred, but certainly never accept that kind of evil. But a politician from like the United States who's mostly benign, except for when they're not, and they send people to fight and die unnecessarily in wars, and they commit people to death, whether they deserve it or not, including many innocent people who are just civilian bystanders. That's pretty terrible. But largely speaking, we're talking about politicians in the West who, outside of prime ministers and premiers and things like that, are really and truly mostly benign, right? Unless they're national leaders with the actual ability, right, to order forces to use lethal force, or local leaders like mayors who can order police to use lethal force. For the most part, politicians in the West are pretty harmless. So I don't hate them. You know, if anything, I hate policies more. And I don't hate, I disagree with policies. Once they are lethal, then yes, you could say that maybe I hate the policies if they commit harm or injury or death. But again, I wouldn't dwell on the hate. Ain't no time to hate, barely time to wait. As the Grateful Dead sang. Whoa, what I want to know is, where does the time go? Right? That's from Uncle John's Band by the Grateful Dead. For those of you who don't know. But yeah, there you go. That's my quick view on President Trump admitting that he lied, basically to get into office. And when I say he admitted he lied, obviously he didn't say, yes, I lied. What he said is, yes, I called President Xi of China to help intervene with the war, which means he could not do it on his own, which means effectively he's admitting he lied when he said he could do it on his own on day one, which clearly he could not do. And all the dupes and suckers who believed him, who voted for him anyway, when it was obvious that he was not telling the truth, they continue to support him. Right? I'm not talking about the intelligent people who voted for him. When I say intelligent, I mean politically intelligent, because you could be the smartest engineer or doctor or lawyer or just average person in the world and still be politically naive. Right? I'm talking about politically smart people voted for him, knowing he lied to them. They did that because of their agenda reasons. But more than that, politically naive people voted for him, whether they knew he was lying or not. Most probably didn't think that he was lying because, well, they're politically naive. And now, if they ever even find out that he lied, which they probably will never understand, that he lied and that he admitted to it by calling President Xi, they're going to continue to support him anyway. He could literally come out and say, I lied to all of you to win the election so that we could be in power again, so that I could enrich myself and my friends, and so that I could further this agenda that you guys all seem to want me to do, whether it's right or wrong, or whether parts of it are right or parts of it are wrong, right? He could just say that. They would still support him. It is a cult. Okay? People in the cult will say that the people on the left are in a cult. Well, guess what? The people on the extreme left are in a kind of a cult, but it is nowhere near the cult of Trump. And anyone who thinks that it is has another thing coming. Do the math. How many people voted for Trump? 70 million or so? give or take, whatever, I don't know. They voted for him as a person. And if you say even only 40%, 50% of them die hard through and through MAGA voters in the cult, you're still talking about 30, 35 million people in a cult. That's like 10% of America in a cult. Now, you could argue religion is a bigger cult. Yes, you could argue that. Catholicism, Protestantism, Islam, whatever, all the different versions of Islam, Sufism, right, Sharia, Sunni, whatever. You could argue those are bigger cults. But those cults, outside of Catholicism, which has a pope who is seen as the avatar of God on earth by the most cultish of the Catholics, right? What political movement can you name right now on the planet that has 35 million diehard cult members and whose leader is effectively called the leader of the free world because of the vast amount of economic and military force and power that he wields? There isn't any. He truly is the world's biggest cult leader. And if you want to say, well, Biden had 81 million votes and he won the presidency, and if you're saying presidents are cult leaders, then he was a bigger cult leader. No. People didn't vote for Biden with the same passion that his base voted for him. Right? What is Biden's base? Maybe a few million voters that are true hardcore, no matter what, vote for Biden and no one else. That's not a thing. He was always an establishment politician. His run for presidency was almost by accident. Like, it was de facto. He had to run, and he ended up winning the primaries because he was the former vice president, and the establishment decided, okay, I guess we'll run him against Trump because he has the best chance politically to win after we've seen the results of the elections of the primaries in 2020. So he was the winner of that election. But nobody was like a hardcore Biden or nothing. You know, people were posting riding with Biden, not with the same ferocity and intensity. How many people still do that today? When Trump lost his election, his fan base only got more fanatic. And he came back and won 4 years later. What do you think of the odds that Biden's going to come back and win in another 4 years? 0, right? Yeah, exactly. Is there a hardcore fanatic group of supporters of Biden that think, oh, he was cheated out of his election and we need to bring him back? No, that's not a thing. You know, there's nobody, right? Certainly not millions of people, let alone tens of millions of people. When Trump lost his election in 2020, literally tens of millions of people lost their collective minds, went nuts, and never let up the drumbeat, and only made it louder and louder for 4 years. And that is why they effectively managed to win, right? They effectively managed to convince another 35 million or so people, or 40 million or so people, to vote with them to bring back Donald Trump. That's the only reason. He has the most zealot type of cult imaginable in a free Western society. It's insane. And when I say it's insane, I also mean it is, hey man, respect. It's like they managed to do something that the other 270 million people in America thought, yeah, that's not going to happen. But it did. Because when you have a fanatical base that is very vocal and is disciplined enough to not do anything so crazy, especially when they're out of power, that they won't win that next election, they're almost unstoppable. Almost, because they could have lost. But the Democrats that they ran against were a bunch of incompetent buffoons, and that's why the Democrats lost. You know, frankly, this should have been one of the easiest elections in the history of America for a Democrat Party candidate to win, given all of Trump's history and baggage and legal problems and this and that. It should have been in the bag. Right? And the Republicans accused the justice system of being a two version system. If that's the case, why did Trump win the election? He should have been convicted and imprisoned long before, and far less people would have voted for a prisoner, especially if the judge had given him a harsh sentence like, you cannot come out of prison, even if you are, the president. Far few people would have voted for a guy who could not leave his prison cell while serving as president. I mean, think about it. It would be kind of crazy, right? 30 million people still would have voted for him. But a lot of people who voted Republican would not have voted for a guy who had to stay in his jail cell, even for a day during his presidency. That would just be nuts. But again, he still would have gotten 30, 40 million votes, but he wouldn't have gotten 70 million and he wouldn't have become president. So where's the injustice in that? Right? But no, you had a two-tier justice system. You had a justice system for everybody else and a justice system for Donald Trump. That even when he was convicted 34 times on fraud charges, which again, I know a lot of people, even on the left, say, oh, those were trumped up charges, so to speak. Those were ridiculous charges. I'm sorry, but a jury of his peers found him guilty. Oh, but it was in a liberal city. Oh, so you think that it's biased based on location? So he could commit those crimes, which you admit are crimes, but if he had done them in a non-liberal city, he would have gotten away with it? Okay, well then two things. Either he's a moron, because he should have known better if the system is so rigged against people like him. He should have known better than to commit those crimes in a liberal city, in a liberal jurisdiction. He's a moron. His lawyers are morons. They advised him poorly, or you think you're smarter than all of them, and you know something that they didn't know. Well, then why didn't you advise him? Why didn't you tell him, hey, don't break that law, don't commit that crime in a liberally biased city, if you think it's so biased? It's disgusting that people say, oh, it's a jungle court. No, America, as corrupt as it is, has a pretty decent justice system, right? Compared to much of the rest of the world. The accused has their day in court. He failed to present evidence to convince the jury of his peers that he was not guilty. They found him guilty 34 distinct and separate times. They convicted him of fraud, right? 34 separate times. That wasn't the judge convicting him. That wasn't the judge's daughter convicting him. That wasn't the Senate or Democrats or the House Democrats or anybody else convicting him. That wasn't the president convicting him. That wasn't the, Attorney General of the United States convicting him. No, it wasn't. It was a jury of his peers, citizens of the state of New York, who were vetted and approved through the normal judicial process by both the district attorney and his team of defense attorneys. They agreed to who the jury would be. They asked them questions, they did voir dire, they did all that normal stuff. They approved of that jury. That jury heard the cases of the defense and the prosecution. They saw the evidence. They saw Trump sitting there in court, acting as if he was, being unfairly treated, blah, blah, blah. And they decided, upon careful reflection, that he was guilty. So again, this all comes back to, people who say, oh, he's not guilty. No, he's guilty. He'll forever be the first president of the United States who, after his term in office, was convicted of crimes. Not just the first president who was impeached twice. He is by far the most criminal president in probably the last at least 8 years. At least maybe even as far back as Woodrow Wilson. Maybe as far back as the whole teapot scandal. Further than that, arguable, debatable. Because that was a pretty big scandal at the time. If you don't know about the teapot scandal, you should really look it up. A fascinating story in American history. Maybe I'll cover that sometime on this channel. Give you all a bit of a history lesson in U.S. presidential politics and corruption. And again, so like I said, I'm not hating on Trump. I'm just presenting the facts. I don't hate him. Do I love the guy? No. Do I think he's an imperfect human being? Yeah, we're all imperfect human beings. Some more than others. I think he's very good at convincing certain people to believe whatever he says. He's proven that. And when he leaves office at some point in the future, and yes, there are people trying to let him run again, and there are even people trying to let him just stay in office without running after his term is over. Because of course. And if you think that's a joke, watch that go through the machinations. We'll see. But for now, he's the president who has openly lied about ending the war in Ukraine with Russia. He's openly lied about it. He's openly said he lied about it by saying President Xi of China, and he spoke because he called President Xi to ask him to help rein in the Russians and end the war, which is an admission that he lied when he said he could end it on day one by himself calling Putin and Zelensky and by having them on the phone and telling them to stop the war. It's an admission that he lied. That's how Trump admits that he lies. He tells you something else that he did that's even more ridiculous than the thing he said he was going to do. And in so doing, admits to you his failure and the fact that he knew and knowingly lied when he promised multiple times that he could end and would end the war on day one of his presidency. It's the kind of thing he does on the regular. Name the lie. See how it works. Again, that's just how I'm just observing how he does politics. I'm not hating on the guy. I have no reason to hate on the guy. But I certainly don't love the guy. And if he was ever able to run for anything else in office, yeah, I probably wouldn't vote for him. But that doesn't mean I would immediately vote for somebody opposed to him, like running against him. It depends who they are. Ask me if I voted for Biden. No, I didn't. Ask me if I voted for Harris. No, I didn't. Normally, I won't tell you who I did vote for, but I'll certainly tell you I did not vote for those characters. Because I don't think that they're better choices in many ways. They are in some ways, but they're also not in many ways. They're equally as bad. And I'm not going to give my vote to people that I think are bad. Now, arguably, you can say, well, if you're not giving your vote to this person, you're basically giving it to the other person. Maybe. There is that statistical argument. There's also a statistical argument that in some people's cases, depending on where you live, your vote really would not make a difference. Anyway, enough of that. I bid you all a Shabbat Shalom and peace. And yeah, again, I don't hate Trump. I don't hate Harris. I don't hate most politicians in the West. I dislike their policies often. And I don't like the fact that they lie, but I expect them to lie, cheat, and steal That is their job. So just bringing facts. If you like this, subscribe. Talk to you later. Peace.